On the front page is still talking about insecurity, the Orire incident and Orire abduction investigation. And on the top page of the paper, we have, I will be great, Orire teacher's last lesson on the blackboard. And that story is on page 3. Unfortunately, we are still hoping for the release of the children. And let's also not forget the teachers. Moving on to page 13, Peter Obi laments rising school abductions, asks youth to reclaim Nigeria. I participated in killing only 4 people, arrested cult leader. And that story is on page 19. Judge's absence stalls judgment in suit seeking the registration of ADC, Accord Party, others. And that story is on page 13. Atiku blasts Tinubu First Lady over political gatherings while abducted pupils. Teachers remain in captivity. And that's on page 5. And lastly, on the front page of Saturday Tribune this morning, we have a story on page 26. It says, FCT police arrest suspected kidnappers seen in viral video. And that's all we have on the front page of the Saturday Tribune. Taking some inside stories. On page 3, we have I will be great, Orire teacher's last lesson on the blackboard. And of course, we have pictures of the blackboard, the writing on the blackboard. We have some family members of victims and residents of Esiele community on that particular page. We also have pupils abandoned school bags in one of the classrooms of LA Basic School after the attack. That's all we have on page 3. Moving on to page 6, insecurity. Direct your resignation call at Tinubu, not service chiefs. Bode George tells Adeboye. Federal government seeks AFDB's support on poverty reduction, humanitarian reforms, out of school children. Anxiety as Anambra government arraigns 8 alleged fake pastors. Ibarakba traditional ruler advocates stronger grassroots security, donate motorcycles to community guards. All stories on page 6. Southwest must act fast to tackle insecurity, address religious extremism, agricultural decline. And that's coming from Sheikh Akeuba Gold. And that story is on page 8. And on the Ask the Doctor page, and that's on page 9, we have smoking and my lungs, egg yolk and my health. Elders and daily walking, dates and my health, eating eggs after 40, my frequent urination, and my blood pressure medication. Those are all questions that have been answered on that page. Moving on to crime on page 10. Bandits collected 3 million naira, phone, victim's clothes, then announced his death. Family of slain Zamfara FGC teacher. Moving on to more stories. On page 16, where we have dispatch riders, the new menace on Lagos roads. We are proactive, LASMA. We are studying the situation, brand owner. And that story runs through 16 and 17. On page 25, we have erectile dysfunction may be early warning sign of heart disease. And that's coming from Senjobi family physician. All right, before we move on to more stories, let's head to the back page where we have the sports story. On the last page, we have Iwobi Chukwueze return for Portugal clash. All right, before we move on to more review, we'll take a break. And when we return, we'll continue with the newspaper review. Please stay with us. All right, thank you very much for staying with us. Yes, still on the newspaper review. And lastly, on the Saturday Tribune this morning, we have a story on page 29. It says, Makinde seeks patients over Oriwe abduction as Air Force intensifies rescue supports. And that's all on Saturday Tribune this morning. Ajadisola, over to you.
Thank you very much, Fumbi. Of course, on the Nation newspaper, that's the newspaper I have with me this morning. I have the major story there. It says 2027, anxiety in parties as INEC voids late primaries. All right, Commission insists timetable remains binding pending appeal. ADC reruns in Kaduna may clash with INEC deadline. Ignore fake APC senatorial candidates list. Party tells public. The story is on the front page and, of course, inside story on page 4. All right, on page 3, you have Tinubu working to rescue Oyo kidnapped victims. That's coming from Sheitima. Police reported death of schoolgirl. Fake warns against misinformation. Nine fintech entered 3 trillion market as FCCPC deregulates airtime credit lending. Presidential order backs domestic firm to curb forex outflow. Right on page 2, house suspect hired driver for marriage, killed him, stole his vehicle in Rivers. Lagos police crush kidnap syndicate operating from hotel. The story is on page 2 as well. All right, chess champion Tunde Onokoya, poverty robbed me of chance to become a doctor. The story is on page 23. 5 soldiers killed as troops repel terrorist attack in Buruno. All right, let's take some inside stories that made the headline. Tinubu working to rescue your kidnapped victims. That's coming from Sheitima. Police reported death of schoolgirl. Fake warns against misinformation. Private schools shot in Oyo over school abduction. Muslim community faults terrorist demand on Sharia. All right, that story is there on page 3. Right, let's go to other stories. This morning, alleged 36 million naira fraud. Court admits evidence of Blessing CEO trial. Right, search for Adilabu's sister, twin nephews in kidnappers' captivity. Enter store day. God, this is quite pathetic. All right, still on the Nation newspaper, on page 5, outbreak threats, NCDC appeals for more health sector funding. All right, 5 soldiers killed as troops repel terrorist attack in Borno military base. Reps minority leader Agbese insists signature was forged. Insecurity will overcome if we unite, says defense minister. That story is also there. All right, let's come to the commentary page. The commentary page, it is month of decision, emerging force of burial as political tool, abducted school children and the bandits who live among us. All right, or your abduction and our illimitable vows, Nigeria bandit war of attribution, the making of fascism yet again. And of course, on the Weekend Live page, South Africa, Nigerians, others panic over June 30th quit notice. 105 Nigerians, 85 others killed in 7 years of xenophobic attacks. Teenage South African mistaken for foreigner, killed by protesters. That story is also there. All right, let's see page 12 and 13. Nigerians, others in panic mode as Zulus vow to unleash terror 30th of June. All right, on page 13, we are motivated by blindness to chase success. Visually impaired JAM candidate said that recall battle preceding visual condition. All right, let's go to other stories there this morning. I'll move over to page 16, the sports stories. Frank won't rush into next role after sport exit. Starboy Yamal wins La Liga Player of the Season. Leo outlines transfer stands amid Arsenal Man United links. Ogunsoya clinches Nigeria's first medal at World Wrestling Series. Chelsea legend Diseli backs Portugal to win World Cup. Bruno Fernandes targets award double after PFA nomination. Of course, also my desire as a ranking senator that's coming from Agbedi, Tambuwa, limits of political maneuvering, unremarkable exit. That's also there. And of course, we'll wrap it up here. AKT 2026, benchmarking BAO's best. Of course, financial pressure is changing relationship. And that's as much as we'll be taking this morning from the Nation newspapers. All right, Fumbi,
before
you see
we
some
move,
of the stories.
yes, and I just want to talk about what we have on the front page of the Saturday Tribune before we move to the governor's activities. Where the last teacher's lesson on the blackboard in Orire, one of the classrooms in Orire, it says, "I will be great." Now, imagine one of the students, experiencing, that was your last lesson in school, and the next thing you see, you're in the bush. When they are eventually rescued, the trauma that lives with those children, even the teachers, and how do they get convinced of the greatness they are being promised, when they have experienced such incidents? It just leaves a whole lot of question and, of course, pity on
and not
the children.
just that. You see, people who have been abducted are now coming out to talk. And most of them, when you hear the stories, it's so touching. A lot of them come back and commit suicide, especially the female ones. And why? Because they talk about how they've been molested by the bandits. They use them as sex tools. They have rounds of sex with them, morning, afternoon, night. And it's so traumatic. Somebody that you can't even imagine touching your hand now comes over you and wants to have sex with you. It's the meaning. It can make one run crazy. So these are, and so for some people it's better dead than come back and have memories of how those things happen. And that's how they live with that trauma for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, but we just hope, that's not the case with these children and, of course, the teachers. Let's also not forget it's not just Oyo State. We have children in Borno State who were abducted on the same day. I think about 42 students,
were also abducted in
Borno State.
And that's not the first in Borno. It's not the second from the North Nigeria. And I also want to, another most traumatic part is, when you see a mother, just like the one who was abducted the other day with her 2 children, God forbid, they now molest your child in front of you. That mother is going to live with that trauma forever. And these are things that sometimes when you sit down and do an analysis or you try to ruminate over it, you just feel like falling sick and, it's just unexplainable. Nobody can really give an explanation of why or how these things happen. But I don't know. I just pray that we have a better Nigeria. We live each day better and we can sleep closer to eyes.
And I think one of the ways to fight this menace in our society was, the governor yesterday cracking down on insecurity, banning Okada operation, talking about no Okada would operate from 10:30 p.m. till 5:30 a.m.
I don't think 10:30 is too far.
Too late, right?
I think so. I think the governor should please help us bring it to maybe like 7 o'clock.
No, I mean, that might not be realistic, considering the fact that
the
population in Ibadan.
I know. You know why I'm saying that? This will help people get back to their homes earlier, or maybe 8 o'clock.
But what about those who still have to be at work till maybe 9 p.m.?
They would need to leave. Organizations need to consider the level of insecurity as we speak.
Let's also not forget our own organization. We have newscasters who stay here till 9 o'clock, 9:30 p.m.
There are Marwas that can move people. Marwas are better off. Mara cannot run the race that bikes will run. I'm just talking about safety. When they can't move, say from 7 o'clock, and you are restricted to Mara, so maybe what government can also do is provide more, maybe those Maras that can ply, give people soft loans to be able to have those Mara in use.
And honestly, I think it might not just be, maybe subsequently, it might not just be bikes alone now. Even talking of these kekes, we also have to be careful. We've seen instances, where people say they bought a tricycle and at the end of the day, you're supposed to highlight them somewhere and they just keep moving and they decided not to stop. So
the chances are not very high from
the chances might not be high, but it is happening.
No,
so
it's
maybe
definitely
proper registration of these transport
I
systems.
I agree.
Having a proper identification.
Yes, there's a state residential register too that was created. So the question is, how many of us registered? These are things that government had done to prepare us ahead of days like this. But trust me, we didn't get to do the right things. For me, let's quickly go to the governor's activities, and I will be back shortly. Stay with us, governor's activities.
This week's activities of Oyo State Governor Engineer Seyi Makinde commenced on Sunday, 31st May, with his attendance at a Thanksgiving service, retirement celebration, 68th birthday anniversary, and book launch, and in honor of the immediate past head of service in the state, Mrs. Olubunmi Oni, in Ibadan.
It was a gathering marked by celebration, gratitude, and fond reflections as dignitaries from various sectors converged to honor the immediate past head of service of Oyo State, Chief Mrs. Olubunmi Oni, on her 68th birthday and retirement from active service. The event provided an opportunity for family members, friends, colleagues, and associates to celebrate a woman widely admired for her professionalism, dedication, and commitment to public service. Speaking at the occasion, Governor Seyi Makinde commended the celebrant for her outstanding service and unwavering dedication to duty throughout her career in the Oyo State Civil Service.
A few days ago, she came to me and said, have I disappointed you in any way? And I said, not one bit. I mean, she led over 100,000 workers. That may be the population of the country.
The governor also used the forum to address concerns over the abduction of students and teachers in the rural local government area, assuring residents that government, in collaboration with security agencies, was making concerted efforts to secure their safe release. He urged residents to remain calm and continue to support ongoing efforts through prayers and cooperation with security agencies.
This is not the time for protest. The terrorists and the bandits, they are not normal people. They don't have reason. If they have a reasonable head, they won't be in the bush. They won't be doing what they are doing. So if we're protesting, we're fueling their ego. Ọkàn ọba àti ìjòyè, the heart ọwọ́ Ọlọ́run ló wà. Ọkàn àwọn bandits yẹn náà ọwọ́ Ọlọ́run ló wà. Surgical gbàdúrà, we are doing everything possible. It's also not the time láti trade blames. Okay, it's the federal government, it's the state government, it's the local government. So in all our quiet corners, surgical gbàdúrà fún Ọlọ́run pé kọ́lọ́run touch ọkàn wọn. While we are doing our best to bring back our children and their teachers.
Earlier in his sermon, the president of Christ Apostolic Church, Nigeria and overseas, Pastor Samuel Oladele, reminded Christians that life is a divine gift and that every individual is created for a purpose. Noted that true fulfillment and greatness are found in selfless service to God and humanity.
Being a servant, to many of us, we believe that a servant is someone whose life speaks of all things that are negative. But the Bible teaches otherwise. To those, many people in the world, being a servant is out of it. But the Bible says we are to serve. That's exactly what David did while he was here on this terrestrial shore.
At a reception, the chairman of the occasion and secretary to the Oyo State government, Professor Musiba Babatunde, described Chief Mrs. Oni as a hard-working, disciplined, and principled administrator who served the state with integrity and distinction.
so àwọn ṣe làdúrà fún wọn pé pẹ̀lú òkú lọ́dọ̀ náà ẹ̀yin tó fi tí wọ́n ti kúlé náà ikú ò ní pa wọ́n sí o àrùn oníṣe wọn wọ́n tún dàgbà báwo bá wọn ṣe 70 báwo bá wọn ṣe 80 báwo bá wọn ṣe 90 ọ̀nà náà wà lápáta ìlàbílà lórí.
Family members, colleagues, and associates paid glowing tributes to the former head of service, describing her as humble, compassionate, diligent, and an inspirational leader whose legacy will remain a source of motivation to many. Reflecting on her journey in public service, the celebrant, Chief Mrs. Oni, expressed profound gratitude to God for preserving and guiding her throughout her years of service, attributing her successful career to diligence, humility, teamwork, and a continuous willingness to learn and grow. She also advised the new head of service to maintain an inclusive leadership style and foster a sense of unity among workers.
The journey has not been smooth, but it has been interesting. It has been interesting because God was with me. From the beginning to the end, there is no journey that will see that is straight or smooth. You have some rough patches. Even the road, most times you have these potholes, but all the same, you reaching the goal, reaching the end, reaching the destination is usually the most important. So now, I've just reached the destination, the end of the journey for the civil service at age 60. It's not been really easy, but I enjoyed everything because God was with me.
Major highlights of the celebration were the cutting of the birthday cake, the launch of a book authored by the celebrant, alongside the presentation of gifts and goodwill messages in recognition of our remarkable contributions to public service. Notable among dignitaries present were the wife of the Oyo State Governor, Chief Mrs. Tamunominini Makinde, the Deputy Governor, Barrister Adebayo Lawal, former heads of service, Chief B.C. Adeshola and Elijah Amidat Agbola. The Chief Judge of Oyo State, Justice Yabo Yerima, was represented by Honorable Justice R.B. Akintola, members of the Oyo State House of Assembly, top government functionaries, and senior civil servants.
On Tuesday, June 2nd, Governor Seyi Makinde addressed members of the Nigeria Union of Teachers, NUT, and the National Association of Nigeria Students, NANS, who staged a peaceful protest over the abduction of teachers and students from 3 schools in Orire local government area of the state.
The abduction of about 46 people, including teachers and students from a secondary school, a primary school, and a private school, all located in Orire local government area of Oyo State since 15th day of May 2026, has remained a source of concern for the people in the state and beyond. In solidarity with the victims and expressing fears over insecurity, the national leadership of the Nigeria Union of Teachers, NUT, gave a directive that teachers in Oyo State should boycott classes from June 1st, and the state leadership of the union have commenced implementation. The union also led its members and other stakeholders, including Nigeria Labour Congress, National Union of Local Government Employees, NOLGE, and the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, out on a peaceful demonstration to hasten government's efforts at rescuing the victims from the terrorists.
Teachers must be free, must be free. Our teachers must be free. Our teachers must be free. Our teachers.
Addressing the protesters at the governor's office, Governor Seyi Makinde appealed to the various stakeholders to have trust in government on the mission to secure the freedom of the abducted teachers and students. He cautioned against activities that could further strengthen the terrorists, noting that both the federal and the state governments are collaborating at ensuring the safe release of the victims.
This is a time of national discourse. It is not the time to trade blames. It is not the time to play politics. I am personally distressed. How will somebody take a fellow human being and slaughter him? Is that somebody that is normal?
They are normal, monsters.
So these are not normal people. And I can appeal to you to please have trust in your government.
In their separate remarks, the leadership of NLC in the state, Comrade Kayode Martins, his NUT counterpart, Comrade Ajibola Azan, and the NANS president, Comrade Afiz Babatunde, stated that insecurity in the country has put everyone, irrespective of status, at risk. Hence, government at all levels must do everything to nip it in the bud.
We are here today to let the masses be aware and rightly spell it out to them. It's not that these people are after teachers or whatsoever. Yes. Let me give you a political word. You're very much aware that Oyo State was peaceful until you're very much aware that the governor has the flair for workers. That is why they do what they did. I want to send it back to them. We will give you all that it takes. We are here to charge His Excellency the Governor of your state to please do more in fast-tracking the quick release of these people in captivity. It is time for government at all levels to work together, even to the level of the local government, to make sure that our people return back to classes.
During the peaceful demonstration, various stakeholders, including the state coordinator, Campaign for Democratic and Workers' Rights, Comrade Abiodun Bamigboye, President, Nigeria Union of Local Government Employees, NOGE, Comrade Ayobami Adiogun, and the NUT Secretary, Comrade Olukayode Salami, had addressed the participants on the need for government to be more proactive in securing the lives and property of Nigerians.
We will see that this thing has been happening for over years now, and they have been terrorizing citizens. But this time around, the teachers and the captive for over 3 weeks. Who will be the next to be kidnapped in the state? And that's why we say that the Noge in Oyo State, we are part, and unfortunately, the Nogen and teachers, we are people that are closely to people at the grassroots.
The peaceful protest, which was monitored by security operatives, kicked off from the Agodi State's headquarters of the NLC through Gate, NTA Junction, Toto Garden, before terminating at the governor's office.
On Friday, June 5, Governor Seyi Makinde signed Executive Order 002 of 2026 into law, restricting the operation of commercial motorcycles riders, popularly known as Okada operators, to the period between 5:30 a.m. and 10:30 p.m. across the state. Signing the Oyo State Executive Order 002/2026, the state governor, Engineer Seyi Makinde, explained that with the current security challenges across the state, particularly the recent kidnapping of teachers and students in Orire local government area of the state, it became incumbent to fortify the state security framework to ensure public safety, while acknowledging the pain and anxiety faced by the families and the government as the abductees remain in the captivity. Governor Makinde assured residents that his administration will remain committed to securing their safe return.
While we continue to take all necessary actions to rescue them, we must also learn from this unfortunate incident and from other security breaches. We owe it to our people to continue strengthening the security architecture of Oyo State so that we can better protect lives and property. It is within this context that we take another step towards improving security and public safety in our state. Therefore, it is pursuant to Section 5(2) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, Section 35, Part 5 of the Road Traffic Law of Oyo State, Cap 148, Laws of Oyo State 2000, and all other enabling laws and powers in that regard. I signed the Executive Order number 2 of 2026 on the regulation and enforcement of vehicle registration and traffic management in Oyo State.
The governor urged citizens to to stay vigilant, united and resilient, warning that fear could undermine collective confidence. Earlier, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Abiodun Aikomo, outlined the framework of the new order, which includes prohibition on unmarked vehicles, driving against traffic, and the regulation of vehicle registration, among other security measures. Later the same day, the governor received the Nigeria Air Force Commanding Logistic Officer, Air Vice Marshal Abdul Abubakar Sule, alongside members of his delegation during a courtesy visit to the governor's office in Ibadan. The Oyo State Governor, Engineer Seyi Makinde, hosted the Nigeria Air Force Commanding Logistic Officer, Air Vice Marshal Abdul Abubakar Sule, and his delegation at the courtesy room of the governor's office, Agodi, Ibadan. In his address, Governor Seyi Makinde appealed to residents to remain patient as the government intensifies effort to secure the release of recently abducted victims in the state. He reiterated his administration's commitment to strengthening security, noting that the planned deployment of surveillance aircraft will enhance intelligence gathering, improve monitoring capabilities, and support ongoing efforts to protect lives and property across the Oyo State. The governor commended the Nigeria Air Force for its support since the abduction of pupils and teachers in Orire local government area, describing the intervention of the Air Force as timely and encouraging, while also pledging further collaboration with the Nigeria Air Force on training and maintenance support.
So my advice is, please be patient with us. We bought those aircraft without anyone's prompting. We went that route because we felt we required that to make your state even safer, and these adjoining states as well. Because like the AOC said, the Air Forces, they are stretched. Things are happening all over the country. And whatever we can do at the subnational level, you know, to make their job a little easier, we're going to do it.
In his remarks, the Air Officer Commanding Logistic Command, Air Vice Marshal Abdul Abubakar Sule, assured the Oyo State government of its full support in tackling the ongoing kidnapping incidents in the state, describing the development as a national security concern that requires collective action.
We are aware that the state government has procured some Diamond 42 aircraft, which are presently in our base in Ikeja, awaiting assembly. We want to assure the governor that that aircraft type, we have been operating it for more than 15 years, the Diamond 42, and we have experienced pilots and engineers that have been operating it for long. So we are available if the state will need any support from us, in addition to the hangar where it will be assembled. If you need any technical support, any advice while you try to operate and maintain the aircraft, our experts are available and will offer you whatever support we can.
While confirming that the Diamond DA-42 aircraft procured by the Oyo State government are currently stationed at the Nigeria Air Force Base in Ikeja, awaiting assembly, Air Vice Marshal Abdul Sule assured the state government of the Air Force technical and operational support. He added that experienced Air Force engineers and pilots will be available to provide the necessary expertise whenever required. And that wraps up this week's activities of Governor Seyi Makinde. Special appreciation to the entire production crew. I am Olalekan Sulaiman, reporting for Saturday Special.
The home is under attack, but not for long, because Hypo is here. Dirty floors and surfaces.
Not on our watch.
Every day with Hypo. Dirty and stains no fit do us shakara. We got the remedy, original palasa. Hypo, go Hypo.
Germs always find a way back.
No green. Protect every day with Hypo.
Progress no dey happen just like that. It dey come from support when you need help.
Mommy, I got the school fees. You too much.
Na money point oh.
Money point, thank you.
Customer, na transfer abi? Confirm.
Bro, na transfer.
Na money point oga. Oh, na confirm.
Progress na peace of mind when you know say payment go land as Sure Banker. Progress na small wind where they carry person go far.
No worry, yourself go make am. Mo go buy ball.
Victor, even you they use money point?
Of course now, they use money point.
Confirm.
Money Point, made for your progress.
Welcome back. It's still Saturday special on the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State. We want to welcome you back from the governor's activities. All right, at about now, we are in the interview segment, and we'll be looking at what we call state of the nation in Nigeria. And of course, Nigeria is currently navigating a period intense transition characterized by microeconomic reforms and severe cost of living challenges, coupled with lingering nationwide security threats, while the government reports stabilization and rising foreign reserves. Citizens continue to face steep inflation and widespread security concerns. All right, looking at this morning, we have a guest that will be doing justice to the conversation, looking at the key economic indicators this morning. For me, we have a guest in the studio.
Yes, we do, and he will be doing justice to this conversation this morning. Talking of state of the nation, would have to examine the security, education, governance, politics, and everything that has to do with the state of the nation currently. And to do justice to this conversation, we have an elder statesman, a veteran journalist, and of course, I would also say broadcaster par excellence. We have Ambassador Yemi Farumbi. Good morning, sir.
It's nice being here with you, particularly with your
Indeed.
That gives me a feeling of protection.
Protection, indeed.
And of course, the former ambassador to Philippines.
To Philippines, yes.
So we remember that too. Okay.
All right. Before we actually go into the nitty-gritty of this conversation, I know we already started the conversation even before the conversation started. But for the sake of our viewers and, of course, taking a broader look now, how would you rate the current state of the nation, sir?
Well, like your colleague said, it's multidimensional. But primarily today, security. Next to that, economic. And economic has various dimensions: education, job creation, inflation, cost of feeding and things like that. But whichever side you look at, you are not particularly happy. Not happy because Nigeria is where you don't expect it would be. Time was Nigeria had the largest economy in Africa. Today we are number 4. Time was that our GDP grew by 11 to 12%. Today we clap when it grows by 2%. Time was that you could leave Ibadan at 6 p.m. and choose to go to Kishi or wherever you like and drive at night because we thought it was cooler driving at night. But if you try doing that, now everybody in your house will shut you down. Because even in daylight, there's no security. So whichever way you look at it, the state of the nation is not good enough. Or to put it clearly, it's bad. But I think the one that bothers everybody all over Nigeria since 2009, and it's getting worse by the day, is security. Because the primary responsibility of all governments, federal, state, and local, is security of lives and property. But when you look into Nigeria, the constitutional arrangement and structure, we know ought to carry the bulk of security provision. That is federal government. Because it is the federal government that controls all the armed forces. Army, Air Force, Navy. It controls the police. It controls all the intelligence agencies, SSL, DSS, DMI, NIA. It also even had the civil defense. All of these organizations are the responsibility of federal government. So when you begin to talk about security, therefore, you are talking of the role of federal government. I know, of course, the Constitution says that the state governor is the chief security officer of his state. But we know that when you go to that Constitution, it's a lie. Because the governor has no security apparatus to deploy, to control, to direct, to give instructions to. It doesn't have a police. Well, of course, in the South, we have Amateku. In Kano, we have ISPA. We have things like that. But you find that beyond being called security outfits, they are just like the security man you get in the street. They are not licensed to carry guns. So when you look at that, if the governor has only an Amateku, and the Amateku cannot carry gun, and he has to provide security against bandits, against terrorists, who are seasoned, who are trained, who carry sophisticated weapons, who can handle any of the weapons that even the Nigerian army can handle. Asking that governor to deploy Amateku to face is like asking for suicide. So when we talk of security, therefore, the bulk of the responsibility, I would say 98% of the responsibility is that of the federal government. Mm. Of course, we also have individual responsibilities. Because the criminal code from section 256, 7, 8, 9 allows us to protect ourselves. The criminal code says you can protect yourself with the same level of weapon that you are being attacked. So what that means to me is simple. If my attacker is carrying AK-47, if I must defend myself, I must also have AK-47. Okay? But I cannot have access to AK-47. One, it's very expensive. Two, I need government license to do it. And when this government came in, I mean the federal government, it withdrew all licenses. So you have individuals who probably could have afforded guns but have no license for it. So even the sheer provision of the criminal code that I can defend myself, I can no longer exercise that right because government had handicapped me.
Okay, Ambassador, sir, I want us to go back to memory lane. Thank God you were maybe young at the time of independence and during the colonial rule. And I'd like us to share with us. If you look at the trajectory from that time till now, How did we get to this point? If you look at the way Nigeria developed, many of our heroes went early enough, even during the colonial rule, to study abroad. When it comes to knowledge, give it to Nigerians. When it comes to intelligence, we have it. How did we get here? Maybe you share with us.
Okay. 1960 was an exciting time for Nigeria, in fact for all Africans, because everybody thought Nigeria would be at the top. Yeah. We had knowledge, we had skilled people, they've been to UK, they've been to US, they've been everywhere acquiring knowledge. But we have booby traps laid for us by the departing colonial power.
Please tell us.
Now, I'll tell you some of those booby traps. In the independent constitution, which we all celebrate today as a specimen of true federalism, we had a region, which was called Northern Region then, that was bigger than the all other regions put together. That must not happen in federation. Then we have minorities, which the 1957 Wilkinson Commission refused to address, because there were minorities in the Western region that got excised eventually in 1962 and called Midwest. There were minorities in the East, but because the NCC that controlled the East was part of the federal government, those minorities were not excised into a region. There were minorities in the North, because the Northern Premier then, his party MPC was the dominant partner. So nobody took care of those minorities. So from independence, the TV people, the Idoma people, called the Middle Belt there, were fighting. And they had to deploy Nigerian army to go and kill them. Because they have decapacitated the action group. They have infiltrated Western region, which was then in opposition. They were able to create Midwest. Those were part of the booby traps. Another booby trap was that nobody knew, including Chief Obafemi Awolowo, educated as he was, that there was a provision in that constitution that allowed the federal government to suspend a regional government. Federal government interfered, suspended the Western regional government, and brought in a state of emergency. Then they set up a Cocoa inquiry to criminalize whatever Awolowo had achieved. Then they ended up with a treasonable felony and sentenced him to jail. All of those things started from 1962. That was 2 years, creating political instability, lack of trust. And when you don't have peace, when you have political instability, then you cannot have progress. And then, of course, all of that led to political alignments. All of that emphasized the need for them to rig elections, for them to continue to stay in power. You recall the 1964 federal election that was boycotted by the Eastern Nigeria, and where Western region was just a passive participant, and half of the candidates from the West were declared unopposed. Why were they unopposed? Because the electoral agencies that should receive their nomination form refused to accept them. So the intolerance, the desire to hold on power at all costs started very early. 1964, then we had the one in 1965, the Western regional election, that the people of the West thought, okay, if you have rigged federal election, we will at least win as action group in Western region. And that if action group won, they believe Awolowo will be released from prison. And if you remember, I think that this was Uba Tukunde who did this song and said, Agbe Baba Bo, Ibo Tiati, Ibo Tebi, Agbe Baba Bo. Then they did the election, they rigged it. Baba never came. So the people got angry. And Operation Wete started. They were burning houses, destroying people, killing people. And that was in fact the last, how would I call it, explosion that brought in the military. Because at that time, when all over Western Nigeria, you could not travel from place to place. Even the premier couldn't pass through the streets of Ibadan. Federal government did not declare state of emergency. Instead, they were holding a meeting of the Commonwealth. And they said there was peace. And as soon as the Commonwealth leaders were leaving, in fact, one of them had not left, I think that was Bishop Macarius of Cyprus, was still in Eastern Nigeria, the military struck. That's how we got here. Then the military got there. That was Ironsi. He cancelled the regional structure. He cancelled the federal structure. By the Unification Decree of 1967, at the Decree 34 of 1967, he cancelled it. So the North said, what's going to happen? When you unify Nigeria, we don't have enough teachers, we don't have enough nurses, we don't have enough civil servants. Do you mean you will not be posting the Igbos to us? Because you have unified the civil service, you unified the judicial service, you've unified education service? They said no. So there was a rubber. And that was May 29, 1966. There was massive killing of the Igbos in the north, and some Yorubas, and some other Southerners, because it's sometimes difficult to look at a man's face and say you are Yoruba, you are Igbo. And of course that led to the counter coup of July 29, yes, 1966. That brought in Gowon. As a matter, when they were planning the coup, it was not enough to succeed. Because they were going back. They sent their family on. But for the intervention of the British High Commissioner and the American ambassador, they who persuaded them, they know would have succeeded them. So, Gowon came and became head of state. He was a lieutenant colonel. Under him was Colonel Adebayo, who was senior to him. Under him was Brigadier Ogudipe, who was senior to him. In military, that is wrong. A lieutenant colonel cannot be given instruction to a colonel, not to a brigadier. But the North will not accept instruction from anybody who was not from the North. So this was how we started.
And moving. The trajectory moved.
Ended up in a civil war.
Okay, let's quickly go on this commercial break, Ambassador. You've told us a lot about, the yesteryears that we didn't know, we never existed at that time. We're happy that history could be brought to us today. Let's go on this break. When we come back, you'll be able to shed more light on other areas as we look at the state of the nation. Stay with us. Don't go away.
No put your ears, make we talk. Time don't reach to rearrange this house to give una small wisdom. Sounds mighty fresh now, but you know, I beg no be so. Before una go talk, say our smell no reach. Make una think I'm twice so. Ever heard of Colgate? The #1 oral care brand in the world.
Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection unlocks 24 hours cavity defense. The formula boost with calcium for lifelong smiles.
Mom, it's a time to brush. No more cover mouth.
Colgate for 24 hours maximum cavity protection.
All right, welcome back. It's still Saturday special. And of course, we still have veteran journalist and elder statesman from Ambassador to Philippines in the studio with us. And that's Ambassador Yemi Farumbi. Thank you for joining us and still staying with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, you just told us that story, how it went. But again, let's look at it. Now, if that was what led us to the Civil War, where is the place of forgiving one another and uniting as a nation? Because we obviously can move forward. It's a multi-ethnic nation, multi-ethnic state. We can't, for God's sake, move forward if we don't come together and unite. And if there's anything we have seen, I watched the viral video 2 days ago, and there was a Fulani that was being spoken to, was being asked that, look, why are you people kidnapping? And he said it's not their Fulani. It's the Fulani, the foreign Fulanis. We can't differentiate. But we need to come together and unite. In fact, he told us that even he himself was kidnapped, and his family had to pay ransom for him to be released. So if the so-called Fulani that we thought are our Fulanis that have also been adopted, then where are we going?
You see, you can't solve that problem without solving the problem that history created.
What's that problem?
I told you about the unification decree. I told you that when the military now took over, Gowon created 12 states, and wisely, he said each state should have the power of the region.
Okay.
But when Muitalak came there, he created 19 states and changed the status of the state. The states were no longer having the powers of the region. Because either we had local government police.
At that time?
At that time. We had NA police, that's what they call their own in the north. Now we'll be arguing and begging to have ordinary state police. So if there had been no disruption, we'll have had a local government police that had developed by now over years, over 60 years, that would be good enough to combat the local terrorism that we are facing.
But do you think this is local terrorism? Is it just tailored towards Nigeria alone?
No, no. You see, it's an international movement. You see, the part of the problem we have has to do with the history of the Islam itself. Peace be unto him. When Prophet Muhammad died, there was a dispute about successor. Should we be the husband of the sister? The husband of the daughter, or should he be his brother? So they had this debate because he had no male child. Some people supported the husband of the daughter. Some people supported the brother. So they broke. You know how many years ago? Some are called Sunnis today. Saudi Arabia up to Nigeria, Sunnis. Iran, Syria, and the Shiites are called the Shiites. The Sunnis are comfortable accommodating Muslims.
Okay.
That's what we have largely in the Southwest. They came to the Southwest from Mali. They were called Ese Mali. That's how they became Imali.
Mali.
Yeah.
Wow.
But this militant one, you see what happens in Iran. In their history, they've always been overthrowing. And they want a theocracy. So these Shiites want a theocracy. So likely, they don't recognize there's something called Nigeria or Ghana or something. So they want an Islamic state of West African province.
Oh, that's where we're going.
That's where they are going.
Okay, where they want to take us?
Yeah. They started Boko Haram. Boko Haram is a fraction of ISWAP. Lukurawa is a faction of the Islamic State of Iran and Syria. The two of them are only interested in one thing: militant Islamic government. The Sunnis, they live comfortably everywhere they are. They may have princes, they may have kings, they may have speakers. They don't have a great spiritual leader, the kind that you have in Iran. So that has been exported all over the world. And Nigeria has been affected. The whole of the Sahelian, Mali, Niger, Chad, Burkina Faso, you know, you used to hear of the Tuaregs in Morocco. They were part of that. They were fighters, naturally wanderers. They are cattle rearers. They born to live in hardship. They born to kill. They kill without thinking. They would rather kill you and steal your property than steal your property and leave you alive. They first kill, then steal the property. So these are the people we are dealing with. Now, a lot of things have facilitated this. Not only that our own local security had weakened, but also we have a northern boundary that is unprotected. In fact, sometimes, if you've been to the north, you will know where our boundary is between us and Niger. Niger is predominantly Hausa. Northern Nigeria is predominantly Hausa. And there's this shifting sand. When the wind blows the sound, where you pass today, you saw as a road. Tomorrow you find sand dunes there. I have a friend who once was coming by road from Sokoto, he was going to Kano. And overnight, the winds have moved the sands. So by the time he was passing where he thought was the road, he was already in Niger. Wow. We have an offense of bad boundary there. And we have cultural affinity with them. So sometimes you don't know until you see their police gendarmes and they speaking French, that you know you're already not in Nigeria. So we had that problem. And then we had the problem of desertification because of climatic changes. The desert was growing. That means these wanderers who were rearing their cattle were no longer getting enough grasses. So they started following the grasses to the south. So inevitably, sometimes they transfer into Nigeria. And we have an offense, unmarked boundary. And then there are political actions also. In 2014, we have the evidence of Usman Bugaji, Dr. Usman Bugaji. We had the evidence from El Rufai that they went and recruited Fulanis to come, believing that Buhari will not win. And that if Buhari did not win, they will make Nigeria ungovernable for Jonathan. So they imported them. Unfortunately for all of them, Jonathan was a gentleman.
He walked away.
He said, my president is not worth the life of a human being. So they found themselves in power, or they've imported these people.
So now, based on, and the history you just gave us, and of course, letting us understand how they infiltrated Nigeria, and of course, how some government officials also brought them in, it's obvious we now have foreign factions of these terrorists in our midst. We also have foreigners amongst them in our midst. Now, is it a fight we can fight on our own as Nigeria? I'm talking of our armed forces now. Can we really fight this fight on our own in terms of flushing them out of the country?
Can we even flush them out?
It's so difficult for us to fight them on our own. And that's why, particularly in the Northeast, when the whole thing started as Boko Haram, There was a cooperation between Cameroon, Nigeria, Chad, what they call the Chad Basin Commission, to fight that these people, when you see a Fulani, you don't have to be told that is a Fulani. But you never can see whether it's in Nigeria or Fulani.
Exactly.
In my town, the Fulanis have been there for more than 100 years.
Wow.
We gave them a place called Ga. In fact, they speak better Yoruba than myself. Because their grandfather was there, the father was born there, they are present, they are, I think, the third generation. But we are talking about some people who have been chased either by desert or sometime by the collapse of Gaddafi. They were fighters under Gaddafi. And then Gaddafi collapsed. So they moved. So they were already trained fighters. Sometimes you can't differentiate. And that is why fighting terrorism is not something one nation can do, particularly at the level at which we have reached. Maybe when they first started as Boko Haram, and when they first started as Boko Haram, it was to make government ungovernable somewhere in Borno. Ali Sharif, I think was the governor there, Ali Modu Sharif. They started like if they were just thugs. Then they started saying they didn't want education. Boko Haram. Then they started growing. And what has made the fight difficult is that sometimes within government, high hierarchies of government, there are sympathizers. There are people who really believe that this country should be an Islamic state. There are people who really believe that they should take the Quran from Sokoto and dump it and bring it to the Atlantic Ocean. There are people who believe that. And they are in high position. And they are in position to take decisions. So you have conflict. And when you are in government, you are president, you don't even know whether the man who is advising you as defense advisor believes in them. And that's why you find a situation in which we have voted so much money for defense, and you start wondering, why is it that they have better and superior weapons? When Buhari was there, we bought 6 Tomahawk jets at huge expense from US. Where are they? Why are they not being deployed? Why is it that that general in Maiduguri, when they attacked his command post, he escaped into armored tank? I mean, that's the safest place. Only to find there is no fuel inside. How do you explain that? Or how do you explain the situation of Brigadier Uba, who escaped the terrorists and called his base, said, I've escaped. This is where I am. Come and evacuate me there. And the next he saw were terrorists. So that means there's some leakage. Or the situation of the Chibok girls. We had the Americans supporting us then. And we were going to gas all of them to sleep so they can pick the girls. They took a decision today. We are going to do it tomorrow. They got there tomorrow. They found the bandits wearing masks. Why is the leakage? So you never can say that everybody in authority in Nigeria, if I believe Nigeria as constituted, that there are no human beings in high position who believe really in the concept of an Islamic state. That's part of the reasons why it becomes difficult. The soldier you are fighting with, you don't even know whether he believes in it. And a retired general, I forgot his name now, 2 days ago said, when they were rehabilitating them, the so-called Boko Haram that got rehabilitated, that's all they told them, that they'll go back and fight. So it's something they believe in. So as Nigerians and as Nigerians, we don't have a common vision of what Nigeria should be.
Or what we want.
Exactly. Where do we want to take Nigeria? All of us. 237 million people. 350 plus ethnic units. Each one having different opinion about how Nigeria should be.
But sir, is the case not having a common vision for Nigeria, or we just have some set of people not aligning with the vision of Nigeria?
I've tried to read and read. I know we tried to do a vision under Abacha. What happened to it? He died. We're going to have Vision 2010. Then you're going to become Vision 2020. We don't have a common vision. If you're an American, that's something they call the American dream. It's a very simple thing. That if you're an American, you can get to any height that your own talent can support. That's the dream. That we're all created equal under the sun by God, irrespective of colors and so on and so forth. Those are the kind of things we have. It's not a booklet. A common dream, you don't need a Bible for it or a Quran for it. We all don't have a common dream for Nigeria.
Okay,
even if you ask the political parties, the politicians, what's their dream for Nigeria? You don't get it.
Okay, Ambassador, let's, a lot has been said about our history, and you've taken us through how the problem started, the problems of today. And it seemed like those problems may never get solution. Are you, sir? Now, let's look at, we've talked about insecurity, we're coming back there again. But let's look at the economy. The economy of this nation is maybe in comatose because we have not been able to put our house in order. Today we see the cost of food, tomorrow the cost of fuel, the day after you see that even kerosene that a lot of people no longer use is being sold for close to 2,000 naira. The day I needed a small quantity and I tried to buy from a filling station and I was hearing 1,700, 1,800. And I'm like, what?
I look that your income has not increased anyway.
No, yes, again, we thought that kerosene was for the poor people. So again, you now find out that everybody had moved to using cooking gas. But even the cooking gas now sells for close to
2,000 per
kg.
kg, yeah.
And I tried to check the last time I bought. I said bought for 1,300.
Yeah, within a space of 3 days, it just went up.
And I don't know where we're going.
Now, it's not that our problems have no solution. We can mitigate the problem. We probably cannot solve all the problems because there is no nation that solves all of its problems. But you're going to find that the solution to security is the solution to economy. Why was it that if you ask an average Yoruba man, what was the best time in their life? They say, Awolowo. If you go to the north, they're going to tell you Sardauna. What made that period unique? It was the structure. If the West produced cocoa, they took 50% of whatever they got from it. They gave federal government 20%. They put 30% in a reimbursable account for all of us. But now, if I make VAT from Oyo State from drinking beer, we get only 13%. Whatever we produce, we get only 30%. Is there a motivation? Whereas before, we used to get 50%. There was a motivation. So West did cocoa, East did palm oil, palm kernel, Midwest did rubber, North did groundnut, cotton, shea butter, and things like that. We have centralized the nation into a situation in which everybody had become lazy. We are looking forward for crude oil. So how do we run the state? Federal allocation. There are states in this country that depend for more than 90% of its revenue on federal allocation. Why is the motivation? Why can't you produce and keep? You talk about food. If you can get cheap petroleum allocation, why bother about planting yam? In Yoruba today, most of the yam we eat is called Abuja yam. Is it that we don't have yam?
We now have gambari from Ondo State. Equivalent and quite good.
Yeah. There is no part of Yoruba land that doesn't have what you call ewura, that doesn't have what you call a suru, that doesn't have what you call igaga, that doesn't have what you call olo. If you start talking of beans, they have white bean, they have sese, they have otili, they have pakala, they have perigede. All of that are gone because we are waiting for beans from Plato. The zeal to produce had been lost because we can no longer keep what we have. One of the reasons why America has become very great, America produces a lot of crude from Texas and so on. Federal government in America doesn't care what you do with your money from crude oil, so long as you pay rent to federal government. That's all. On Nigeria, we sit on crude and gas. When that expires, I don't know what we'll sit on. So we have become demotivated, lazy Nigeria. And that is affecting our economy. So our economy is no longer producing. We are just consuming. Where are the industries? What happened to them? Let me take Ibadan. Isoglass, Exide Battery, Leland, Atlantic Carpet, Body Foams, Tilbury, Ferrodo. What happened to them? Procter & Gamble. Shut down. Here, I don't want to talk of Lagos. If you know the street called Acme, where
you have all the industries
there,
seated.
Today, what do you get there? Churches. Churches don't employ.
Lounges.
Lounges.
Hotels.
That's what we do now. Event centers, petrol stations. Where are the industries? Who is processing our crude oil? Who is processing our cocoa? Where is the cocoa industry in Lagos, Ikeja? Where is the cocoa industry in Ede? Where are the textile factories? There used to be over 2,000 textile factories in this country. Now we don't have 5. What happens to the tobacco that they used to produce somewhere in Ogumosho? Who is going to process the very beautiful mango, one of the best type of mangoes in the world that we have in Ogumosho area, when everybody is now just trading?
But sir, when we talk about all these industries that are folded up in Nigeria, is it just about the demoralization of Nigerians now, or policies of governments?
No, it is the structure that made them become lazy.
The structure of what? The companies of Nigeria.
Let me give an example. In the First Republic that we used to talk and we are very proud of, federal government got only 20% of the revenue. Today they get 52.8%. The 36 states get 26%. The 774 local government get 20%. So federal government holds all the money. When you want water, you go to Federal Ministry of Water Resources. Okay? When you want fertilizer, you go to Federal Ministry of Agric. The federal government will even go into primary schools, unity schools. So federal government has so much money and is involved in too many things that they ought not to be. Take housing. I know that in UK, which is not federal, if you want government house in UK, you look for council flats. Or in Nigeria, there's Federal Housing Authority, there's Ministry of Worker Housing, there's Federal Mortgage Bank. Things that ought to be done by local government. So if we rearrange and get these lower levels more productive and equipped. All right, see what had happened to electricity. It was too late, but in the last assembly, National Assembly, they passed the law decentralizing power. So state schools start. You know now that in the secretariat in Ibadan here, they don't rely on national grid. Okay? And I know they have a plan now, that's talking, the new Commissioner of Energy knows how much energy you need in Bonija, how much you need in Ring Road area, and you don't have to rely on national power grid any longer. They can begin to generate their own. But before, they were centralized. It was only federal government that could do it. Before, it was only federal government that could do railway. What Lagos had done with red and blue line would not have happened. Now, the Southwest Development Commission is talking of a rail line in Southwest, using the abandoned lines of Nigeria Railway Corporation, developing it. And that would mean a cheaper movement. So for us to get the economy right, to get the security right, we have to rearrange the structure in such a way. Because a principle in governance is that an activity of government should be at the level nearest to the people.
Okay, let me quickly ask us to look at the issue of living wage. Recently, the Nigerian labor, the organized labor, are now talking about an increase. And you'd agree with me that 70,000 cannot do anything. I don't even know what 200,000 can do. I doubt if
I don't even know what 100,000 can.
So where are we going? Because if the standard of living keep going up and workers continue to ask for increase in pay. Now, is that the solution?
It's a natural thing for the workers. That's the only thing they can ask for. I take a look at somebody who works here and lives at Adigbai.
Adigbai is very close.
Adigbai is close.
Yeah, I even want to use that.
Okay.
And he comes here every day in today's economy. So he probably spends every day 3,000. And he's going to come, let's say, 20 days. That's 60,000. And he's the gate man there. He earns 70,000. So he spends 60,000 on transportation.
He's not going to eat.
Now he's going to live in a house. Economists say that you should not spend more than 20% of your income, more than 20% of your income on housing.
Landlords don't understand that.
But that doesn't happen in Nigeria. So nobody looks at that. So when he spends on a house and he spends on transport, he probably won't eat. If he now eats, he'll be unfortunate if he has children.
Unfortunate.
And he should be fortunate to have children. But how does he take care of them?
True.
I went to a public primary school.
That was like a private school in those days.
Fantastic. From that school in the heart of Ekiti, I had classmates who went to King's College, Government College, Benin. Edo College was called the Government College Ibadan. I went to Christ School. They were good enough to go anywhere. And any secondary school was as good as any other one. But now, if I'm military, my children must go to command school because they can't go to the public school because they are not good enough. If I work in university, they go to international school. If I work with civil service, they go to unity school. So where does the child of the common man, who is earning that 70,000, what is he supposed to do?
I recently saw school fees of some school recently, and some top schools in Nigeria that cost more than 43 million per session.
In fact, some of those schools, they take money in dollars.
And I'm asking,
some of those schools are more expensive than the private universities.
no, I'm wondering, who are the parents? What kind of jobs do they do that they earn so much? Because these are some of the things that some people would see and wonder why they should not kidnap some other people. If they cannot afford to eat, and some people's children are actually going to schools that pay 2 million, 10 million, 20 million per term. So it means that the lifespan of that child in school, the child 43 million times 6 in secondary school.
So that is why, first of all, government has a responsibility to narrow the gap between the high and the low.
The middle class is gone.
No, there is no middle class. That has been gone since the Babangida era. So we only have the high and the low.
But can the gap really be closed?
It can.
How?
You lift up. You don't depress. You lift up. Because if you try to depress, it is going to resist you. But you can lift up. And how do you lift up? Really is looking at the value of what your naira can purchase. When I started work, when I left university, I was earning 60 pounds. That's the equivalent of 120 naira then. I was living in Okeagro. That was high class in Ibadan. Of course, very near the stadium, it was high class. My rent was 12 pounds 5. That's 25,000. 25 naira. That was what I was paying. I would go to the meat shop somewhere in Samanda. I buy meat of 1 pound. My fridge would be filled for 1 month.
And there was electricity to power it.
You see, the value of the naira was such that the purchasing capacity was reasonable.
Can we have that time back?
You can. It's a matter of economic principles. Ghana found at the time they did what did they call it? A decimalization of their cities. Because they just found, you go now, you go and buy a bag of rice, maybe it's 80,000.
Now, I even hear that 1 CD is 15K. It's 15,000.
So we have reached a situation in which Nigerian naira has become the equivalent of CFA. You know, in West Africa, there we used to make joke of CFA because it is always in millions. Now those CFA have more value than naira. So it's a question of economics. And it's a question of production.
Don't we have economists? Don't we have people who can plan this country and we come back to the space where an ordinary man can survive?
Let me tell you a small story. Let me talk about Awolowo. If you like, go and look at his cabinet. Adeyi was from PDT, was a school principal. There was Rotimi William. There was Akindeko, who was an international agriculturalist. There was Obasidi Accra. There was Okusaga. Go and look at their quality. Compare with the commissioners you have today in any of the Southwest. But leave that. He now had think tanks. He had 2 sets of think tanks. He had in Ibadan here. He had Aboyade. He had Mabukunje. A lot of them in UI there, they were extinct. And a lot of them at Ife, Udumosu, Aluko, Akitoye, and all of that. Ask any of the governors in Nigeria, where is their think tank? There must be something. Because if you are doing with governance every day, you're going to exhaust yourself, so you need think tank. That's the first thing. Now let me take you to America. When you are elected as a president, what you do in America is to recruit a management consultant who do recruitment for you. You want somebody in information say, oh, I want the best 3 broadcasters. Oh, I want for my secretary for finance, I want somebody who is a monetarist economist or a fiscalist economist, because those are various approaches. They will get you. I want an agri person, but who has a bias for production. You know, they'll get you. But what do we do in Nigeria? We ask the local government or the state branches of our party to nominate people.
I mean, we've also seen presidents who have had to work with some of their people in their cabinets in past administration. Maybe they've held a position in the past, nominating these people again. Now, are we saying they do not do their due diligence before surrounding themselves with people in their cabinet?
The system in Nigeria is so that I help you to become governor, so I should be commissioner. And George Bush said, those who help you to win election cannot help you run government. Because the art of winning election, speaking on the podium, mobilizing people, is different from running governance. But here, those who help you must be the one to govern, even when they cannot.
So now, when we now have this major issue, challenge in governance, obviously the people do not trust our government. They do not trust, we cannot even talk about accountability, talking of governance now. How do we now talk about the strength of governance in Nigeria? How do the people begin to trust or to start trusting the government? What should they do differently?
It's not the people who don't want to trust the government. It's the government that does not make itself trustable. They are back now at home because they are primaries. You never saw them in the last 3 years. Our elections are plebiscites. When they get elected, they go. So that's why the people don't trust them. You make promises you don't keep. You make promises that you know you will not keep. You just want to win. I worked with the UPN when Uncle Bola was in government. And UPN was a disciplined party. It had slogans, it had principles. But I knew people in those parties that did not understand the cardinal point of UPN. They only just wanted to win. And UPN was the winning party. So they moved there. And that's why what you have in Nigeria, they be in Labour Party in the morning, they be in SDP in the afternoon, they be in APC in the night. Tomorrow they'll be in another cycle because there's no commitment. So what I think we ought to do, and this has to do with leadership, it has to do with the political party, it has to do with what I call the political recruitment. In 1978, Shehu Shagari was supervisory councillor of education in Sokoto local government. Shehu Shagari. It was from there he contested and became president. Compare him with all the supervisory councillors you see anywhere in Nigeria today. In that 1978, BC Onabanjo was chairman of Ijebu-Ode local government. Look at his caliber. Then look at the caliber of those who are chairman today. They are boy. But, so the political parties, it is the elites we must address. They have to be sincere to this country. If they all love this country, they have to be sincere. They want to be government, they want to be president, but they can only be that if there's a Nigeria.
All right.
If there's no Nigeria and there are no states, you can't be governor. There must be continuity. All of us in elite position. I'm one of them. I'm an elite. We must look at the political recruitment, the quality of people who are making councillors. They're going to have local government election this Oyo State sometime. What will be the quality of people there? Are they the people trusted by the local people? Do they know them? The governor may know them, but do the people know them? I know that in 1979, Awolowo wanted somebody to be House of Assembly in Oka, Akoko. These are verifiable story. The Oka people said they don't know him. And that's how the UPN lost in Oka.
But unfortunately,
we must recruit the right people.
Unfortunately, we do not see the people talk against some of these elected people in positions. But sir, as we begin to wrap up on this interview this morning, I know we mentioned education briefly, but I want us to still talk about education, you know, in its entirety now, talking from the tertiary, looking at the primary into the tertiary education. We are seeing a wave of, or let me say, fear. Parents are scared due to the insecurity. Parents are scared of, you know, sending their children to school. Right now in Oyo State, we have schools that have been shut due to the insecurity. We also have children who are scared to go into the classrooms. A few days ago, we were talking about WAEC examination is currently ongoing, and parents are protesting, keeping children in classrooms till late night. These are not things we used to see back then. It feels like we do not even take education seriously. For a country talking about high rate of insecurity, we still see children out late night because of examination. What would you have to say about these current issues?
I'm happy it is happening.
Happy?
Yes, because it's going to make us see the reality of the problems in Nigeria. Children were kidnapped